So I don't know about you, but I have this tendency to get overwhelmed pretty easily. Whenever I sit down to work, there's always 20 to 30 things that I could be working on, and then a bunch more things that I feel like I should be working on to get ahead. For me, overwhelm manifests itself in a couple different ways. The first way is when I actually struggle to get to work in the first place. So that's when I'll have loads and loads of things to do, but I won't actually know which to do at that time, so then I just won't get to work at all. The second way that it manifests itself is I actually work too much. So occasionally when I'll have loads and loads on, what I will do is I'll prioritize the things that should not have been done in the first place. So these are those tasks that just kind of like busy work. And instead of doing the really important things, I'll end up spending my time doing loads of busy work and burning myself out. And where overwhelm makes you really feel like shit is the fact that you're actually worrying about not doing the thing that you know you should be doing. At least if you were a bum, you wouldn't care, so you could actually enjoy it when you're watching Netflix in the middle of the day. But instead, you're worrying because you're not living the life you want to live. And at this point, you really have two options. You either embrace being a bum, grab some ice cream, and stop caring enough about life to get overwhelmed, or you decide to put systems in place so you stop yourself from being overwhelmed in future. And as you can probably tell from the title, this video is going to be about avoiding overwhelm and making sure we have systems in place to actually use every time we feel ourselves getting a little bit overwhelmed. I'm going to split this into 3 main parts, and each area is just going to cover something that I personally do when I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed, and what I actually do when I am feeling overwhelmed to get back on the horse and get back productive and doing the things I actually should be doing. The first thing to do when you're starting to feel a little bit overwhelmed is to change your state. Now I say that kind of sounds like changing states in America. That's not what I mean. Typically, overwhelm is really just overthinking. I know that in my experience, whenever I'm starting to feel a little bit tired or a little bit caught up in my own head, that's when overwhelm comes, because I'm overthinking things. Instead of actually taking action on what I should be doing and what would make me feel better, I'm just thinking about things too much, and I'm thinking about what I'm not doing and thinking about all the things that I should be doing. And if you don't deal with that overwhelm as soon as it arises, then it can throw off your whole day, or even worse, it can revert progress that you've already made. If there's one thing I've learned, and judging by the amount of times that I try to eat food straight out of the oven, there might only be one thing I've learned. It's that you can't think your way out of overwhelm, and trying to think your way out might actually make it worse. The best thing you can possibly do when you're starting to feel overwhelmed is to change your state both physically and mentally. And I have 4 things that I typically do to try achieve this quickly. The first thing is just to move your body. Typically just getting out of your house, whether that's doing a workout, whether that's just going for a walk, a run, anything that just raises your heart rate and gets you moving, is going to help change your mental state and change your physical state. The second thing is to make a warm drink. I don't really know what it is, but there's just something really soothing about a warm drink. For me, I typically make a peppermint tea because I don't want loads of caffeine, because that just makes the overthinking worse. But really, any sort of hydration, whether that's water or a warm drink, really helps to just reset yourself. The third thing that I do is to go find somewhere to read. For some reason, I always go back to Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I don't know if it's because it's kind of his diary, and he was the most important man in the world at that time, and he's talking about self-reflection of how he could be better. And the final thing that I do to quickly change my physical and mental state is to write/journal. Now, when you're writing about what it is you're getting overwhelmed about in the first place, it's really helpful to objectively look at your situation. Usually the thing you're getting overwhelmed about actually does not matter. It's really small and you're just overthinking everything. But you cannot see that until you've changed your state and then you reflect on it. So the first step is designed to completely stop overwhelm in its tracks. What you need to do is just change your physical and mental state, and you'll likely feel a lot better. Now, the second thing that I find really useful is just to find the one thing that you should be doing. Typically, everyone knows that one thing that they should be doing. If you want to write a book, you know that one thing is writing, but it's really easy to prioritize other tasks and put off that most important thing because there's a lot of friction to getting started. When you know you should really write that essay or apply to that job or even write the script to this video, it's not that you're filling your time with nothing. It's not that you're staring at a blank wall all day. It's that you fill your time with less important tasks. And we typically do this so we don't have to face a resistance. It's much easier to fill your time with less important things and kind of feel productive but never actually get anywhere. Shyam Puri, co-host of the My First Million podcast, has a really great framework on how to find that one thing you should be doing. He calls it the ABZ framework. A is where you currently are, B is the next step, and Z is where you want to get to. All you need to know is where you want to get, where you are, and then what that next step is. I find that this is perfect framing for avoiding overwhelm, because overwhelm is really when you're just thinking about all those steps involved to get where you want to go. Something that Derek Sivers talks about, which ties in really nicely with this framework, is that instead of seeing that task that you have to do as loads of tedious, tiny little tasks that are going to be really difficult, instead to frame it as one big, fun step. Derek says that if you love doing something, it seems simple. You don't think about all those tedious little steps that are involved. But if you don't like doing something, it seems really hard and you think about all the tedious little steps that you don't want to do. For example, the non-runner sees loads of obstacles between them and actually running. They think about the fact that you have to change into workout clothes, you have to put on running shoes, you have to stretch, you have to warm up, you then go running, and then you get all sweaty, and then you come back, have to have a shower, change your clothes again. Whereas the person who actually runs, all they think about is putting on their shoes and going for a run. For me, I find viewing that one thing that you know you should be doing as one big step, rather than loads of tedious little steps, is a really great way to actually just get started. And typically when you get started, all you really need is a couple hours of deep work to make real progress on that thing. You know when your TV isn't working and you don't really know what to do. So you go to the wall and turn it on and off, and then it just kind of magically works. Well, that's the next step. So the final part is to have a hard reset, kind of like turning on and off at the wall. Over time, things like tasks and your calendar can all build up, making it really easy to feel stressed and overwhelmed, making it really useful to have some sort of routine or system that you can do when you're starting to feel overwhelmed and you just feel like you need a clean slate. The easier and quicker this routine, the better. I still haven't found a way to kind of like switch myself on and off at the wall, so if anyone knows how to do that, then just let me know in the comments below. For me, that hard reset routine is simply just a week review. Once I've finished this week review, everything kind of feels fresh. It feels like everything is reset back to normal. And it's much easier to know exactly what to focus on and just get to work. So as I mentioned, the week review is really simple. In the past, I've made it quite complex, and I know that every time I do that, I just end up ignoring it and not doing it very often. And that really doesn't help at all. So jumping into things 3, the whole way I've set this up is so that it's really easy for me to check all of the different places I might have tasks and then go through them, gather them all together, delete anything that I know I don't need, and then really just make sure that I get the right things done. So as you can see on here, I have a recurring task set up for every Sunday. I don't always do it on a Sunday, this can vary, but this is like a good cue to kind of do it every week. Then inside of here, all I need to do is process the inbox. So that's kind of a way to capture all your tasks inside of things. It has this inbox feature. So if you kind of want to quickly capture something, but don't want to assign it as a task, then you can just put them in your inbox. And then I have a trigger list. This is something from Getting Things Done by David Allen. And it's really just a bunch of different things that I typically have to do on a consistent basis. And then if I just check through that trigger list, which is inside Roam Research, then what I can do is see, you know, do I need to record a video? Do I need to do my taxes? That kind of thing. Then I have process email. So this is just using, I use an email app called Tempo, and I just go through that email app and then make sure I don't have any outstanding emails or anything. Then figure out the videos for next week plus set goals for the week. So this is really just setting expectations for what I want to get done in a period of time. I find that especially when you're working on bigger projects, you have to break it down into these smaller chunks that you will be okay with getting done. So it's really easy to get overwhelmed over time if you have this huge project but you don't feel like you're making much progress. So typically what I try to do is just have like a target of what I want to do each week, and if I do that, then I'll decide to be happy. Then finally I block my calendar out, leaving room to breathe. So in the past I have absolutely hated calendar blocking. Now what I do is I typically have a few different kind of deep work blocks and then block my calendar out in that way. I find having a schedule is really useful, but as soon as I start to add too much to that schedule, I feel pretty awful and just don't follow it. I hate it when I see a calendar that's like completely blocked out from like 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. It just fills me with stress and anxiety for some reason. But as you can see here, what I've kind of done is just color code these a little bit and just roughly fill these out. So this is actually done yesterday. And as you can see right now, I was meant to just edit this video, but things took a little bit longer than I expected to. So that's not happened, but we will just shift some of this stuff over in the end of the week. So I always try to leave empty blocks of space. As you can see, just got the whole week kind of roughly mapped out here. So that's really all there is to my week reviews. You can see at the bottom, there is laundry. I think laundry might be an Americanism, and I don't think it is a thing that people say in the UK, and I think I'm spending too much time talking to American people. So I'm not sure if that's the case or not, but basically the week review is just this thing where it's like a hard reset. So an easy way to make sure everything's under control and I know what those next steps are to do. But seriously though, if anyone actually has a better way to do this, if you kind of know how to like switch yourself on and off at the wall and do that kind of reset, then just let me know, because I really do want to know. It's really easy to want to try plan and control how your life plays out, but there will always be things out of your control. When you're growing and learning as a person, you will likely feel like you're moving too quickly. Things will probably be a little bit uncomfortable, but really what you need then is just to have some systems in place to make sure that you don't get overwhelmed and that you don't revert any progress that you've already made. Really, these systems are there just to combat negative tendencies like overwhelm whenever they show up, because there's no way that you can fully get rid of feeling overwhelmed or feeling imposter syndrome. So you need systems and little routines in place to make sure that you can reset when they pop up. Once I started to implement systems like this, rather than trying to outthink overwhelm, it helped me to get back on track much quicker and not sabotage any progress that I'd already made by doing the wrong things or overworking and burning myself out. Morgan Housel had a great line in The Psychology of Money that really sums all of this up. He says that progress happens too slowly to notice, but setbacks happen too quickly to ignore. From my experience, that completely sums up overwhelm. When you're beginning to feel a little bit overwhelmed, you just need to change your state, find the one thing that you should be doing, and if that doesn't work, then try a hard reset. Now stop watching YouTube and go do the thing you need to do. Wait man, what are you doing? The algorithm will hate you if you make them leave YouTube, but they've got to go do the work. No, you've got this completely wrong. We're just here to talk about how productive we are, to make them feel inferior because they can never hit our levels of productivity. I'm not sure I want to play that game. But what about that AdSense? Good point. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.